Aliens Explored is a podcast exploring famous and obscure cases of UFO sightings, alien abductions and other strange events from both a believing and a sceptical perspective whilst keeping an open mind. I'm Stu Jackson, a professional actor and amateur ufologist with a particular interest in the crop circle phenomenon. I'll be debating that otherworldly visitations are real. The truth is out there.
And I'm Neil Kelly. I'm a professional actor as well and used to work for the military as an intelligence analyst. I'll be arguing from a more doubtful point of view. I mean, it's all a bit far-fetched, isn't it?
1803 in the Hitachi Province on the eastern coast of Japan. A strange vessel washes ashore with a strange woman aboard. But was she, as many ufologists claim, an extraterrestrial washed ashore on that Japanese coastline, or was she just a strange woman in a strange land? Join myself and Neil here on Aliens Explored as we discuss the legend that is Utsuro Bune.
Hello listeners and welcome back to Aliens Explored, your weekly look at all those mysterious things going on in the skies, in the upper atmosphere, beneath our seas and in smoke-filled rooms of government bunkers. I'm one of your hosts, Neil Kelly.
And I'm your other host sitting in a smoke-filled bunker, Stu Jackson. It's not smoke-filled. I haven't smoked in years.
No, me neither. No.
Did you used to be a smoker?
Well, at school, you were nobody if you didn't smoke. It was the way into a particular set. Yeah, in fact, it was almost like it was not allowed not to smoke.
Right, I did not know that about you. Learn something new every day.
Yeah, I gave it up when I was about 20 because I'd left school and joined the army, and smoking is a big thing in the army.
Right.
But I gave it up for fitness reasons, but then when I went to university, lapsed back into it because I was smoking other things too.
As one does at university.
Which was my way into another particular set. Yeah, perhaps I'm just I'm just a social chameleon, really. I'll take up a deadly habit just to make friends.
Yeah, easily influenced.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I gave up 5 years ago now, but I was smoking when you met me, wasn't I?
I don't remember actually, because we were working, and I guess you had to go off somewhere to smoke. And I remember the thing I really remember about when I first met you was with your hat. You had a hat that when you had it on, it meant something, but I can't remember what it was.
Did I?
Yeah, you had a sort of trilby hat. And you said, when I'm wearing this hat, it means this. I think it was something sexual.
No, it wasn't. No, I know what that is. Yes, that was it was quite a pretentious thing, really. No, that meant I was in actor mode.
Right. When you had the hat on.
When I had the hat on, I was Stu Jackson, the actor.
But didn't you have like two modes of acting? There's we could say, well, this is from Stuart's hatless sort of tranche of acting, but this is a bit like Russell Crowe. You can categorise his films into glasses on or glasses off. Glasses off, he's playing a bit of a hard case; he'll rough you up. Glasses on, he's playing someone a bit sensitive and thoughtful.
Well, I wasn't. It wasn't that I was playing characters wearing the hat. What it actually comes down to, so there's a bit of quite deep psychology in this. If you bear with me, if the listeners will bear with me on this. So I'm actually a very introverted person. People who know me quite often find this very hard to sort of relate that to the person that they see. I'm a very sociable person, but also I'm quite insular. I'm very open, but I'm also very closed. It's a weird state to be in, but that's how it is.
You're defying stereotypes here. Yeah,
I know, right? But wearing that hat meant that I was effectively playing a role of an extroverted version of myself.
Okay.
which I found was like at the time was quite useful when I went for auditions, when I was networking with other, industry people, that sort of thing. Anyway, I'm over all that now. That was so 2016.
It was a phase. 2015, in fact.
Was it 2015? Was that 7 years? Have I known you for 7 years? Well, no, just over 6 years then.
Just over 6, yeah.
Wow. Gosh, feels like a lifetime in a good way. Yeah. So, today's subject. Actually, no. Before we get on to today's subject, I've just spent the morning today editing our last episode that we recorded.
Mm-hmm.
The listener special that Israel wrote into us and asked us to look into, and I suddenly made this realization that the guy we were talking about, Admiral Richard E. Byrd, Dickie Byrd. Now,
wasn't
you're
he a
looking at me
cricketer?
for...
No, I thought Dickie Byrd was an English cricketer.
There was an English cricketer named Dickie Byrd, very, very famous. But also,
he was actually Richard E. Byrd. Dick E. Byrd.
Actually, Dickie Byrd was Harold Dennis Byrd. Right. But he was known as Dickie. Yeah, the cricketer was known as Dickie Byrd. But no, the Dickie Byrd is rhyming slang. In London, in the UK, we have rhyming slang for various things. Going up the apples and pears means you're going upstairs, and a lot of people will be familiar with rhyming slang, I'm sure.
It's supposedly an underworld code to prevent police from understanding what they're talking about, but it's a really, really easy code to crack.
If
everyone knows it.
Yeah.
You're having a giraffe, ain't you?
That's it. Well, Dickie Byrd is like, no, I won't say a Dickie Byrd, mate. A word. So, anyway, that just really amused me, and you've looked at me all blankly now, and now I feel like a prat.
No, it's just my normal look, jaw hanging slackly, bit of dribble on the chin, dead eyes.
Okay, Cletus. Let's crack on with today's.
Yes, because I'm still doing the welcome. So today.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, no, I let you. I'm interacting during my welcome. So continuing with my welcome before I was so rudely interrupted. This week we are looking at something called Utsuro Bune, a Japanese mystery from the early 19th century, and also related to other mysterious events before and since.
Yes. In fact, we can put it down to a specific date. 22nd of February, 1803 is when this all kicks off. Now, the words themselves, Utsuro Bune, translates as hollow boat.
Well, you'd have a bit of trouble getting inside a solid one, wouldn't you?
Do you know
that would be a surfboard, wouldn't it? A solid boat.
There's a lot of truth in what you say, but yeah. So this strange, ethereal, beautiful woman lands off the Hitachi coast in this very strange, enclosed craft.
Well, was it that strange, really? I mean, it was a covered craft. It was round, which wasn't uncommon in those days. Probably not. It's not so common now. I mean, you won't see many people paddling around in coracles in Britain. But, apparently at that time it wasn't that unusual to have a round boat. It's probably an easy shape to make. And if you're going to cover it, you will end up with something that looks like a flying saucer. Unless you have a flat cover, in which case you've got to lie flat in the bottom of the boat. If you want a bit of room, it's got to be that sort of saucer shape, isn't it?
If you're going to build a boat, surely there are a couple of things you want to do. One is you're going to want a means of propulsion.
Depends what you want to do with the boat, doesn't it? If you just want to cast someone adrift as a punishment to go and perish at sea, then yeah.
Well, if you're wanting to someone to perish at sea, you don't put them in a boat.
Well, this was one of the theories, wasn't it? That it was a punishment, that this was a woman, a high-ranking person from a strange and exotic land who had committed adultery or something like that, but because of her high rank was spared the death penalty and instead was just put in a boat and not an open boat as well, a covered boat, and pushed out. So the fact that she's in a boat at all, and the fact that the boat is covered to protect her from the weather, that suggests that they're going to make her. Basically, they wanted to starve to death rather than drown or.
I mean, that's utter speculation, because this woman couldn't speak a language she was found initially by fishermen. Of course, she was brought ashore. She spoke a language that nobody understood at all. So everyone speculated, and that was one of the speculations about her origin. But here's the thing: if they wanted to starve to death, why did they put food and water in the boat?
Oh, give her a fair chance. Maybe that's the punishment. Like that mutiny on the Bounty.
Flip of the coin.
The mutineers put Captain Bligh and his supporters into an open boat, set them adrift in, was it, I know they ended up, was it on South Georgia in the South Atlantic? And it's still the record for the longest navigation in an open boat, because although Captain Bligh might have been a martinet who drove his crew to it, drove his crew to mutiny because of the harsh conditions he imposed on his crews, he was a very, very, very good seaman and negotiated them to safety on South Georgia, where he sort of told the authorities, and it was Lieutenant Christian, wasn't it, that got arrested. But also, Captain Bligh was a better connected person socially and politically, so that's. Oh no, it was Christian, Fletcher Christian, wasn't it? He was the better connected socially and politically, which is why Captain Bligh is the bad guy in Mutiny on the Bounty.
Right.
But basically they could have just thrown them to the sharks or would have thrown them into the sea, but they put them in a boat. And I think, it's been speculated this is a similar kind of punishment. Just put her in a boat, cover the boat, so that, and also it's round, so if it gets hit by a wave from whichever direction, it won't make a difference. If you're in a long shaped boat and a big wave is coming, you want to turn to face it. You don't want it hitting you side on, because you're done for then.
Well, it's interesting you raise that as a point, because I have my own theory, and I genuinely don't think this was a punishment. To give people a better sort of description of this vessel that she was found in, then, like I say, it was covered over, it was round in shape, it was described as being like an incense burner, a Japanese incense burner. It was 3.3 meters high and 5.4 meters wide. It had it was copper bottomed. It had clear windows on the top of it. There was writing inside, but it was again a language or symbols that nobody could decipher. And now I want to come back onto those symbols in a little bit, because I think there's a very pertinent aspect to them that we'll come back on. But there was no form of steering with this vessel that's ever been discussed. No form of propulsion. To me, it sounds more like a lifeboat.
Yeah.
Than something you put someone in to punish them with, like an escape pod.
But even a boat like a coracle, which is an open boat, I think they're particular to Wales. The Welsh fishermen would use them. It's a round boat. No, that has no means of propulsion apart from the guy in it with a paddle.
Okay, but that needs to be an open boat if you're going to paddle it. If the fact that it's closed and it's got no form of propulsion, that sounds to me like an underwater vessel, basically a submarine escape pod. Now, of course, in 1803, submarines were only being speculated by, I don't know, was Jules Verne... Jules Verne was after then, even with the Nautilus. About 20,000 leagues under the sea. I think
they'd got to diving bells, I think, by that stage.
Mm. So that's what that sound. That's my own personal theory, is that this was like an escape pod.
Okay, I mean, the fact that she landed in Japan, which was a very closed society, they were shut off as much as, say, North Korea is today. No one, if anyone landed, that would have set alarm bells ringing.
It was the Edo period, wasn't it?
Yeah. Also, the fact that she didn't speak their language, well, not only would she not have spoken Japanese, but it was probably a particular version of Japanese. There were probably all sorts of different dialects, and someone who lives, you can't understand someone who lives more than 20 miles away, much as in England at the time. You know, if someone from Kent travelled up to Yorkshire, they'd probably find it very difficult to understand what people were saying.
Yes. So, I can absolutely accept that. But it's not just the fact that she spoke a strange language. To give our listeners a description of this woman, she was described as being 1.5 meters tall, pale skin, with red eyebrows and red hair. But her hair had these strange extensions on them, white extensions. That were made either of a very finely cut fabric or of skin. They weren't entirely sure, which is a bit odd in of itself. Her clothing was some strange fabric that they couldn't fathom. Now, we think today, think about like neoprene and wetsuits and things like that. That sounds... that would be a material that would seem very strange back in those days. So there's that. And she was carrying a box 23 centimeters in length that she absolutely would not let go of whatsoever. But yeah, she couldn't make herself understood to them. Whether she could understand them or not is another matter. I'm going to come back to these symbols now. On the inside of this craft. So inside this craft there was water, like I say, 3.6 litres of water they found. There was food.
That for her to drink, not
drinking water, yes. Yeah. There was meats and some kind of bread. This is how it was described. There was bedding. No mention of a toilet. But but maybe they just neglected to mention.
Perhaps, they just didn't list that. It's something that was so bloody obvious. Well, of course, you got some sort of something to shit in.
Could be, but yeah. So she's a very strange person herself. She's in this very unusual craft that's not been seen before or since. There's these strange symbols on the inside. Now, the symbols they're almost like hieroglyphic in nature. They're almost like pictograms.
What are they? Because, these Japanese fishermen, after their interaction with her, they put her back in the boat and pushed her back out to sea, didn't they? So we've only got their word of... these are... Japanese fishermen who, if they could read at all, it was probably one written version of Japanese. There are a few different versions. They wouldn't have understood. They wouldn't have recognised Russian, or they might have recognised Korean.
They copied them down.
Did they?
Yes. There is a record. There's 4 different symbols that have been recorded from this. The first one is, if you imagine like an equilateral triangle, with a circle on its left-hand edge. The second one looks for all the world like a television antenna, a series of horizontal lines with one vertical line up the middle. The third one, if you imagine a cross with circles at the top and bottom ends of it. And the last one is again an equilateral triangle with circles on both edges. Now, there's 2 things that this instantly puts me in mind of. One is, in the Roswell crash, the debris that was found had what was called or described as hieroglyphs on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds, and the artists' renditions that have been made of those look very similar to this, but also much closer to home for us, Neil. Do you remember the Rendlesham Forest story from 1980?
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm just along to see where you're going with this.
Well, they described, I think it was, Lieutenant Penniston? I think it was Lieutenant Penniston. Apologies if I've given him the wrong rank, but he wrote, he drew some of these hieroglyphs that he saw, and one of them in particular is a triangle with 2 circles on it, but one at the very top corner and one on the very right-hand corner.
Mm-hmm.
So almost identical. So it could almost be from the same, if it is a language, the same language.
And have these shapes appeared in crop circles too? Just throwing that out there. No?
Well, certainly triangles and circles.
That's what I thought.
Appear very commonly, yes.
But I say these fishermen, they wouldn't have known another language, right? They copied it. Mm-hmm. It's also been speculated this could have just been decorative. They could have been trying to read flock wallpaper, effectively.
Okay. Yeah.
But
it's interesting. I'm just seeing the parallels with, like I say, with Roswell, with Rendlesham Forest.
Also with the artwork of Kandinsky. That features a lot of triangles and circles in abstract form.
Okay.
It does,
okay.
Yeah.
But maybe Kandinsky is being influenced by alien writing.
Perhaps he is, yeah. Perhaps they walk among us.
Well, some of us believe they do.
Now, about this boat, I mean, one thing that struck me as odd about it was if you're going to put someone to sea, either as punishment or in some sort of lifeboat type vessel,
mm-hmm.
why would you need to reinforce the bottom of the boat? I mean, at first I thought it might. Well, actually, that might be for stability. It was speculated that it was. Did they call it emblazoned or something? But basically, you've got these metal plates on the hull
mm-hmm.
that would stop it breaking up if it hit sharp rocks.
Yes.
I did wonder if it was more for stability to keep it sort of bobbing like a cork, not turning over.
To keep them almost as ballast, then.
As ballast, yeah. So if it will always right itself if it gets. I mean, if it hasn't got that extra weight, if it turns upside down, the person who's in it goes to the bottom of the boat and they become the new ballast. So you need that weight. Because I thought, well, you don't need to protect against sharp rocks because you're only going to hit sharp rocks when you come close to shore, really, and then you're safe, aren't you?
Well, it depends where you are. If you were designing a lifeboat, you'd want it to be capable of handling any surroundings in the water, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but you're really thinking deep water, aren't you? Sorry, that bit about being a ballast, being a counterweight, only occurred to me as I was saying it.
Yeah, I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to say, yeah.
It doesn't have any visible means of propulsion, much like many of the UFOs we've seen, but unlike the UFOs we've seen, it didn't have any visible sign of being propelled by anything other than the elements.
Well, if its purpose is to basically just keep someone alive until rescue can be found, you're not just going to want it for deep water. You are going to want this thing to wash ashore potentially, aren't you?
Yeah.
So protection from rocks would be very sensible.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, would it have protected the craft from being dashed by huge waves against sharp rocks on a craggy coastline? I mean, I'm thinking if you're on a lifeboat that has no visible means of propulsion, you've just jumped off a ship into this thing, you've got food and provisions, and you will either starve to death after a week or two, or you'll hit land, whereupon you will get out.
Well, that's where copper is an interesting choice, I personally think, because there are stronger metals out there. If its sole purpose is just to withstand a battering, steel was around.
Yeah.
You could have used steel, that'd be far more effective, surely. But copper is an excellent conductor of, certainly of electricity. I think, gold is better, but, obviously a lot more expensive, a lot rarer. But who knows what other energies copper may be excellent at conducting. I know copper is used, dowsing rods or divining rods are particularly effective. So who knows what other energies, otherworldly or otherwise.
I suspect if the hull of her little craft had been made of gold, she would not have made it alive. They would not have put her back to sea in it. And here you can have one of our fucking fishing boats for keeping this.
I was going to say, they might have put her back to sea, but yes. No, I'm inclined to agree. And what do you make of this box?
Who knows? I mean, it was obviously something valuable to her. There was some suggestion that it was the head of her lover who'd been punished. She was a princess who'd strayed, so her lover gets his head chopped off. It gets put in a box, and she's allowed to take that with her. But could have just been her valuables.
Yeah, weird random speculation. I'm going to put that one down to.
Yeah, weird random speculation. But just something. Just the valuables. Don't touch this. It's mine.
I'm going to put forward another theory again. So,
okay,
there's another aspect to all this that we've not discussed yet, which is talking about the Dragon's Triangle. Now, the Dragon's Triangle is very familiar to something that undoubtedly our listeners will be familiar with, the Bermuda Triangle, where lots of vessels have gone missing, and the Dragon's Triangle is just south of Japan. Very similar in terms of lots of history of instrumentation going haywire, vessels disappearing without a trace, that sort of thing. And it's been speculated in both cases that with the Bermuda Triangle and the Dragon's Triangle that there are underwater, if you like, extraterrestrial bases.
This is a lot less well known than the Bermuda Triangle, isn't it? I mean,
it is far less well known.
Bermuda, Barry Manilow never made a song about Dragon Triangle. Try to see it from my angle.
I think he missed a trick there.
He missed a trick. Did. That could have been that. Maybe it was the B-side. I don't know. I never bought the single.
But let's hypothesize for a moment that that's the case. That would seem like, if one of these underwater I'm saying extraterrestrial, submariner beings, one of their vessels, if an escape pod from that was launched with this person in, why not? And maybe the box that she was carrying was some sort of either homing device or communications device, and she was waiting rescue. I mean, something like that you definitely would not want out of your sight.
And she was never seen again.
Well, she was, as you rightly said, she was put out to sea in her vessel and sent off.
Into the vastness of the Pacific Ocean.
And no wreckage has ever been found of this vessel, no sign of it or her ever again. So I speculate that, in fact, you know what? Yeah, I mean, we've reached that point in the show anyway, so I'm going to give my speculation.
Blimey, doesn't time fly?
Story, doesn't it, though? First this time. I know I normally ask you first, but I'm going to do mine first this time. I think that she was indeed, I'm going to say extraterrestrial, otherworldly being. That's a better phrase. Otherworldly being from an under the sea base or vessel, launched in an escape pod for whatever reason. We have absolutely no idea. With her communications device or homing device, washed ashore in this strange village, and subsequently, after being sent back, picked up and recovered. That is what I believe has happened here. What about you, Neil?
It's certainly very mysterious. I don't think the story has come from a reliable source. I mean, it's folk tale almost of this strange person who they'd never seen the like of before from their closed Japanese society. They would never have seen a European, for instance. Actually, one question: would 1.5 meters have been regarded as tall in Japan in those days? I mean, I'm 1.8 meters, so she would have been a third of a meter, which for our American listeners, that's about a foot shorter than me. She would have been about 5 foot tall.
I shouldn't have thought that was considered particularly tall. No, I mean, we're only going back 200 years. You know, we're not going back into the mists of time. You know, it wasn't as long ago as all that. And you're saying they would never have seen Europeans. Yeah, there were times when Japan was not a closed-off country prior to this. So,
but fishermen living in a remote fishing village.
Fishermen.
They wouldn't have seen anyone from a big city, probably.
I agree. But it's not like they wouldn't have heard of them.
I don't know. I don't know what they would have heard of or not heard of. I'm showing my ignorance of. I've got to read more James Clavell to further my understanding of European encroachments into Japan as it started to open up to the rest of the world.
Japan was very aware of the rest of the world. Like the average everyday person 200 years ago was aware of the outside world.
Well, I'm sure Japanese diplomats and politicians were, but I'm not sure the average Japanese fisherman living in a small village on the coast would have been that aware of the rest of the world.
You drew a parallel with modern-day Korea.
North Korea, yeah.
Yeah, your modern-day North Korean will know about Europe.
Yeah, they will. They will know it as the enemy.
Yeah, they'll still know about them, even if they can't contact them.
Yeah, they'll certainly know what Americans look like because they'll be presented as demons.
There you go.
But with this, I think it's mysterious. I can't see anything to suggest that it's otherworldly. The woman appears to be human. The craft appears to be made of materials that the fishermen were all familiar with. Didn't regard it as any particular value.
Not her clothing.
That her clothing, yeah, who knows? I don't know. But I don't think... I'm coming down now. I don't think she was an extraterrestrial.
Okay. What do you think, listeners? We always want to know what you think about about everything we talk about. But yeah, in particular about the Utsuro Bune. Worth having a Google and looking at some of the images of it that have been rendered over the years and some of the accounts.
And she looks very Japanese in some of those renditions.
Some of them, yes. Not so much in others. So there's that. But yeah, do have a look. Do let us know. You can contact us via the usual means. You can email us, aliensexplored@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter by searching Aliens Explored, or you can find us, of course, at aliensexplored.com. And while you're at it, do leave us a cheeky little review. Give us a star rating. Spotify, for our Spotify listeners, they have now opened up star ratings on Spotify. So if you're listening to us through that, do please leave us a review. It helps us massively because we're only a small little podcast. Yeah. It's just me and Neil.
5
working
stars,
together.
5 stars, please. Yeah, 4 stars. 4 stars is the same as 1 star. It's a fail. For any of you who have watched Corporate, the last series, you will know that 4 stars is a fail.
But we are open to constructive criticism as well. So, yeah.
Yes,
no, you leave us whatever you think we are deserving of. Absolutely.
Less constructive criticism.
And don't forget to tell your friends. Word of mouth is always very welcome for this show. Don't forget to join us next time when, Neil, it's that time of year. I get to do a roundup of all the crop circles, my favourite subject, for 2021. And it's an interesting one.
Yay!
it's really interesting what's been going on last year with the crop circles. So you don't want to miss that one. Until then, keep watching those open seas for any strange vessels and strange women in them.
Yes, don't go off with any strange... Well, actually, yeah, do. My advice would be, do go off with strange women.
Why does that not surprise me?
Nothing can possibly go wrong if you go off with a strange woman.
As well as watching the open seas, keep watching the skies as well. That's it from me.
And that's it from me. Yeah. Also, take care and watch your back.
That sounds like a threat. Why are you threatening the listeners, Neil?
What was it when I say something?
Watch your back. Yeah.
It's like, when you've been to hospital and you get a text off and saying, would you recommend this A&E, this accident and emergency department to your friends or family? Well, that's a threat, isn't it? Recommending an accident and emergency department to someone.
Right. As we take Neil away and give him his tablets, because it's clearly that time.
I've got a bit overexcited.
We will see you next time, listeners.
Catch you next time. Bye-bye. Aliens Explored is a Fecal Films production in association with Juicy Falls. Music by Darren Mafucci and editing by Stu Jackson. Find us on Twitter or Facebook by searching Aliens Explored, or visit us on aliensexplored.com.